keeping a record in the notebook. The first 5 or 6 pages should be reserved for a table of content. Table of content can keep on increasing, so we should leave, not that you tear off a page and add a page, or one should not do that, which is kept up to date. Data should be recorded in ink, not in pencil, never. Should be recorded in ink and entered directly into the notebook at the time of observation. If you are taking observations, then you should record the data directly, not that on a sketch piece of paper and then put it in the notebook later on, tomorrow or day after tomorrow. It is intolerable to use memory or scrap of paper for primary recording. Each entry should also be dated. When you take a data, you should record it and date it, at what date you took this data in the lab. All calculations should be recorded in notebook, and the usual rules regarding significant figures should be observed. The point of recording data in the ink and pencil is this, that people do, if you record in pencil and you feel later on, oh, after you did the calculation, the result didn't come out as good as what you expected, you can surely erase it and change it, and that should not be the case. If the data is wrong, you can cut it or write a note in front of it that I am repeating this data again, but it should be kept in the notebook. Not that you completely erase it and remove it out of your book. One should not do that. Adopt a numbering scheme for all experiment runs and samples. You can generate your own scheme, that this is my sample number 1, this is my data number 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, whatever it is. These numbers should appear on the curves. Like if you are drawing a curve, then it should be that this data is in this figure or this graph, and then when the sample is mentioned in the notebook, so it should be mentioned in accordance with that. The origin of chemicals, like if you are using a chemical, one should write that the chemical is bought from Sigma Tech or bought from Fisher Scientific, what is the date, if you know the date or time when it was purchased, what is the reagent, should be clearly mentioned in the notebook. That what kind of chemical you use, what is the purity of the chemical and what that. Make it clear what apparatus was used. When you are taking a data, you should mention, like you are measuring a density, you used a densitometer which is manufactured by such and such company, and so on. You should do that. Whenever an unusual piece of equipment is first used, a sketch should be included. One should include the sketch of the instrument if that instrument is not known to others. Then you can write down a sketch. If physical data is used or if comparisons are made from the literature, the reference should be recorded. If you are using equipment which is made by some company, then you can record in the notebook. So recording of the data is very critical. Other practices that may make research report writing more efficient. Commonly used calibration curves may be pasted. If you are using some calibration curve, you can have a little diagram or you can paste it in the page of the book. Frequently used constants may be placed so that if somebody is looking at your data, one will know that what kind of constants you used in getting the results of this exercise. Pertinent references, books, periodicals involved in the literature search may be recorded for easy reference. The idea is that the notebook should be self-sufficient with all the information in it. So and this is critical from 2 points of view. One does not realize that if you want to patent a work which you have done, if the data is recorded in pencil and does not have proper of these guidelines which I am mentioning, it is very difficult for applying for a patent. Because the patent application people sometimes ask a copy of a notebook, a data book. If there is a data on a particular material which you are trying to patent or crystal which you are trying to patent or whatever. So it is very important to have a record like that. Because often they ask that we would like to see the Xerox copy of your notebook, and if it is not dated, if it is not written in ink, then they will not accept, because they know that you can always erase it or scratch it. So if it is written in a proper way, the data is there, and you say in the parentheses that we took the data, the machine was not working right, so I am repeating the data again, that is okay. Okay, so that is the basic points about the research ethics, and it is utmost important to record the data in pen. Pencil data recording is never ever will be accepted by the patent offices if you are applying for a patent. And you never know that you do a research and then later on you realize. And one more thing about the patent, that there is a general rule, I think this is the rule of the patent office, that if you if you publish something, like when you do the research and publish a data in a journal, I think you have to apply for a patent within a year. If you wait more than a year, then you cannot apply. But once the information goes in the public, you make a presentation to a scientific meeting, then you cannot apply for a patent. And many times it is good to keep these things in mind when you are applying. Any questions of this part? Before I go to the next one. Anybody has any question?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, knowing everything that you put up there, say you do make a mistake and you forget to acknowledge someone, or you overlook a conflict of interest, what do you do then?
You make a note, like in a paper, if you do that, just like I said, I made a mistake. I didn't make a mistake, I wrote it there, but it was not very obvious, like as if with a star at the bottom of the page that this instrument was borrowed from such and such, and the examiner didn't see. In India, the examiners are outsiders. Here in this country, the examiners are a local faculty. Like in the A&M, there may be one person from physics, maybe one from chemistry and all that. But in India, the requirement is that the one examiner is always foreign. Like my thesis came to Professor Van Black at MIT for PhD. And Van Black was a Nobel Prize winner. Later on he got the Nobel Prize. He didn't get when I was he was an examiner. But later on he became. And there are two local examiners in your own university and one outside your university. So this particular examiner was from Calcutta. And he saw that instrument, which was very obvious on a page, because I had a block diagram of the instrument, and he thought that I didn't write clearly. I forgot to write at the bottom of the page that this instrument was borrowed. But the design is not my design, it is somebody else. But it was written in the text, which he didn't see. So I had to when I went for my oral defense, first question he asked that, you used the instrument you did not acknowledge. I said, no sir, I acknowledged it, but I forgot to acknowledge on the page where the instrument drawing was given. So then I said page number 7, said, I knew that he's going to ask that question, because I realized right away after I submitted my thesis that I made a mistake. So I was ready. I said, oh, look at the page 120, it says there in parentheses that the instrument was borrowed, the design of the instrument was borrowed from such and such university and such and such professor. So you can always acknowledge and clarify that problem. But the authorship is a very big issue. There is no hard and fast rules about authorship of the papers. But in general, the rule is that one should look into that who are the real contributors to the paper. By adding more authors, really not necessarily dilute. If you have irrelevant authors, like honorary authors, that dilutes your publication. But in general, there are many fields where there are lots of authors, like the particle physics work. Like if you see the journal articles of particle physics, I think I forgot the record. I think American Physical Society published a few years ago the record. I think the record was 85 authors or something like that in one paper. 85 authors. Because the reason it was because this is a particle physics work, where the work is done on accelerator and there are so many people involved. And visiting scientists come from Germany and England and France, and so I think, I'm not sure whether 84 is the correct, but I remember it was enormous number of people. And APS published one time that what is the record. I think it was 84, 85 authors. But 10 or 15 are very popular. You look at the journal articles and physical review letters on particle physics, always there are 10 or 12 authors, easily. But in other fields, 3, 4 is common, because there is always 1 or 2 students involved and advisor and other faculty members. So adding more authors, if they are real genuine authors, then it is okay. But if they are honorary authors, then it really, in my opinion, dilutes the paper.
He says, if you forget, then what are the consequences? That's
what are the consequences?
Yeah.
You acknowledge, somewhere or the other. Lot of time
so
people,
say like,
lot of time you see in the articles, journals, they say the errata later on, in the next issue.
Oh, okay.
The next issue, that I published a paper such and such, and I forgot to acknowledge this. People do that. I have seen it in many journals, articles. People set erratum later on. They say that I published a paper in July issue and I forgot to acknowledge. Thanks to such and such person.
Thank you.
And the journal will accept that.
And I think that's why they are called ethics, not rather than laws or something.
Yeah, there are no laws.
Yeah, I have seen some paper from Brookhaven National Laboratory. I mean, I just saw one last month. It has about 17 authors.
17 authors, yeah.
And how all of them could be genuine?
No, but in
I mean,
it
like
depends
if
on
you are
what
the
field,
head of the lab,
what field
everyone who works with you.
what field was that?
I guess particle physics.
Particle physics. The particle physics has a chance because
But all 14?
all 14, it can be. The reason is this,
17.
that there are so many diagnostic techniques. Just like I was asking him on molecular beam epitaxy. Like if you grow a crystal from MBE, there are at least 7 or 8 diagnostic which goes on the MBE ports. You have OJ, you have Raman, you have this. You have so many diagnostic on the same chamber. So there are 7 diagnostic tools. One port is giving you OJ result, one is giving another port back scattering, one is giving Raman data. So there are right away 7 authors. Because one person is not expert of Raman or other OJ or other port. And the same thing in particle physics. There are so many different areas. And there are visiting scientists, like if you go to Brookhaven National Lab, to their synchrotron radiation facility, there are, at one time you do an experiment, there are authors, people from Germany and France, and they are doing similar work, and they are all working together on the same beamline for that work. So they can
So
be.
because they share the beam line.
They are not sharing the beamline, they are actually, when they publish a paper, there is a result not only of their own, but they combine the results of all the people. So there has to be, it can be possible. You are right, in particle physics is the only field where there are always lots of authors.
It seems like in particle physics, with the number of participants, some people are playing support roles. What about, is it just people who perform data analysis who get recognition, or people who...
Data analysis also get recognition, yeah, sure. Some people are taking data, some people are making